Welcome back to part 2 of this 3-part tutorial on punch landscape design. What we're going to work on in this part is adding some details to the deck and the patio. We're going to add a darker border to the deck and the stairs, and we're also going to add a really cool border detail to the patio. These little touches really finish off the design really well, and I've got some tricks that I've learned over the past couple years that make it a lot easier than you would on your own. So stay tuned for this. If you have any questions, leave them below. I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. And please don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Thanks. I'm going to have a privacy wall along this side of the deck where the grill is going to go. I like to go to the retaining wall tool for this. It just kind of makes it easier. Let me go back to that to draw it out. So there you go. Now we have a wall on this side. Let's see, I made the other wall 17 feet, so it's defaulting to that. We want to make it 7.5 feet because the deck's 1.5 feet, and then it'll be 6 feet above the deck. So that looks good like that. Now I can add my railings. So we are going to go to the railing tool here. What we have is curved and straight railing. We're going to do a straight railing, and we're going to start here. That's one section of rail, pretty easy. And then we just have a railing going around this side as well. So let's see. So that's our railing, pretty simple. It defaults to putting them on the ground, so you can see they're really low here. So I'm going to adjust that a little bit. Click on this railing. Object elevation is going to be 18 inches. Same thing with this small railing here, 18 inches. And now you can see they're at the right height. It's starting to kind of come together here. Looks like my one railing's cutting into the steps a little bit, so let me adjust that. Can zoom in here, hit our railing, and step that back. That looks better. So it's really starting to come together here. I'm going to add a border and a border detail on this patio as well. So the way that I do the borders on here, there's not a great built-in tool for that. So basically what you have to do is kind of build another deck on top of your deck and put it just a little bit higher than the deck is so that this border detail shows. So here you can see I have one little small deck here. Again, take away the dimensions or else it gets cluttered. And our deck's at 18, so I'm going to put this at 18.1. And it's basically going to be 1/8 of an inch above our deck. You won't be able to tell the difference, but it's going to mean that whatever color we choose for that is going to show over our field boards. So we're making these about 6 inches wide, like a normal deck board. I'm just going to go around and draw this border all the way around. Okay. Just remember to take away the dimensions on these little detail portions because it can really get cluttered. Sometimes the mouse kind of sticks to a certain point. It locks into another reference point on the design, so sometimes you just have to kind of put it where it goes and then you can go back in and adjust it and make it straight. So just about done with the border on the deck. Then we have the steps to go. This is kind of a pain to do, but it's what's really going to make the design kind of stick out and look a lot nicer than just plain deck boards with no detail on the border or anything. So it's really worth doing. So now for the next step, we're on the steps. I'm going to do the same exact thing. The front of the step is going to be a different color, so we're going to be right about 6 inches on the front of that. Just like that, take away the dimensions. Now we're on the first step down, so that's at 12 inches. So we're going to make that border at 12.1. We're now going to do the bottom step. Take away the dimensions, make this one 6.1, and you can see that one went in a little bit crooked, so I'm going to zoom in and just adjust that a little bit. Let me zoom in a little bit more here, try to fix this. You know what, let me try to move this side. Okay, that looks a lot better. Pretty straight. So now I'm going to go over to this side and finish off the border on these steps. So again, this is a huge pain to do, but it's really worth it. It makes the design look so much better. It really wows the client when they see everything with the border, all the details in it. It makes it easier to sell the job when they can tell that you put time into the design, and all those details that are going to be in the finished product they can see right up front. So it's worth taking a little bit of extra time to do this kind of stuff. So I am just finishing up here with the border on these steps. We're also doing these little returns on the steps, so these are really a pain to do, but again, it's a little detail that's going to make it look really nice. So alright, now last thing left is this bottom step, and then we are done with the deck border. Okay, remember to take off the dimensions because you can see it gets really chaotic looking on the screen when you leave them on there. And this is the bottom step, so the border is going to be at 6.1. Okay, take away the dimensions. Last little piece of border is going to go right here. Just like that. So let's see if I did that correctly. Okay, it doesn't look like anything's there. That's because everything's the same color. So we're going to go to this eyedropper tool in the 3D window. You hit it on the deck, it's going to bring up all the decking options. This is the color I like to use a lot. It's just kind of a neutral brown, so we're going to put that on all the decks and apply to all skirting. So now that we have the majority of it done, what I'm going to do is go down to this darker color, and now I'm going to kind of paint in. I'm going to go to an aerial view for this. Can spin this around and then zoom in so it makes it a little bit easier. So as long as you put the border pieces in the right spot, it's technically a separate deck, and it's going to be a lot easier to distinguish your border. So another thing that we can do is, you can see this step is running in the wrong direction, so I'm going to go back up to these boards and change that to the other direction just so it looks a little bit nicer. And let me finish up with the border here. Oops. Okay. Almost done here. Okay. Last thing is these steps. And now you can see it looks a lot better with this border detail on it. Just kind of puts a finishing touch on it. Another thing I'm going to do, this wall here is going to be a cedar privacy wall, so I'm going to take the decking. I'm going to hit all exterior perimeter walls, because as long as it's not connected to the house, it treats this as a different wall system than the house, so you don't have to worry about that. I'm also going to put a darker border piece on the top and coming down the side. I can also go to colors, and I'm going to make this railing into a black railing, which we like to install a lot. So just drag the color right onto the object, and you can hit all of it in the project. So I'm going to click it on a spindle, and it'll say all exterior railing spindle. So that's taken care of. Now it's really starting to look like something. So I'm going to mess with the border on this patio, and then we have landscaping and furniture, and that's pretty much it. So we're getting pretty close to having a full design here. And you can see, once you get the hang of it, that it goes pretty quickly. So I'm going to go to the landscape tab, go to patio, and I'm going to start by drawing out my border. So we're going to have like a triple border going in here, but we're just going to start with one. Okay. So this portion looks a little bit too wide. I'm just going to move this a tiny bit. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, so we have one border piece in here. And let's see that. Let's go back to the inspector. This patio is 2 inches thick. We're going to make this a 1/2 inch thick. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to have a border paver going around. Then I'm going to have a different paver that's going to be 2 pieces wide, so it'll be a foot. And then I'm going to have one more of this darker border. So what I'm going to do is just copy and paste this border that I just did. Okay, let me zoom in a little bit. So yeah, I'm going to put this right on the inside of that other border. But since this is going to be twice as wide, we're going to extend it to about a foot. That looks pretty good. And now on the inside of that, we're going to have this darker border again. So when you've got all these different layers, it can sometimes be hard to select what you want to select. So you just kind of have to play around with it a little bit. But anytime you can copy and paste something that you've already drawn in and then just modify it, is going to be a lot easier than just drawing everything from scratch. So there you go. Now we have thin border, we have this double wide section, and then another dark border here, and then this is going to be our field paver. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. Six inches. Okay, so we have this little piece in here. I'm going to, again, just copy this. Right here. This is going to be that middle portion, which is a foot wide. So I'm going to double that up here. Oops. There you go. And then one more single border. So I'll copy that again. Put that right here. This is supposed to go a little bit on the inside of this, so I'm just going to move all of this a tiny bit. Okay. I'm going to select these three border pieces. And that looks right there. So I'm going to now put in the rest of this border. So starting over here, again, we have this thin border going in. Okay, 6 inches. Looks like about 6 inches. Now we have our outer border. Again, change this to a 1/2 inch. And then copy and paste it. Put it right inside. There you go. There it is. And then once again, we're going to double this up. Same thing there. Again, it looks like I need to pull out this border a little bit because we're a little bit too close to this wall. So there you go, that should be good. And then one more thin border on the inside. Just like that. And that's pretty much what we want. So let me show you what that is going to look like. We'll go back to this bird's eye view. If I can just scroll out a little bit, there you go. So again, it looks like it's all the same paver, but we actually have separate patios here. So what we're going to do is get the eyedropper. And for the field pavers, I'm going to want this just standard brick pattern, which looks like kind of a bluestone. So I'm going to put here only, so you can see it just changed this inner portion. I'm going to put this over here. One of the drawbacks with this is that they don't have manufacturer patterns loaded onto it, so I just try to get it kind of as close as possible, and it still gives clients a really good idea of what it's going to look like. I can then show them pictures of actual projects that we've done and say, okay, this is the paver that we're going to use here. So you can see I am adding this dark paver as a border. So now you can kind of start seeing it come together. and I'm going to use this on this inner portion, just like that. Let me just get this here. And you can really start seeing it come together now. All these borders and stuff is really what kind of makes this look cool and adds like a really cool dimension to it that you don't always see on these designs. Some of them are a lot simpler, so it helps sell the job a lot. This design is now really starting to come together, so stay tuned for the third part in this series where we finish it off with some of the final details. Again, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. We have a lot of other really cool videos on this channel. Like the video, leave me a comment if you have any questions so far. Otherwise, check out part 3 and let me know what you think. Thanks.